nutrition approach for diabetes. I am the Chief of Research and Development Department at iThrive, Manali Chindarkar. And today I have with me an academy instructor, Anagha Gawade, who is also part of the R&D team. So I'm glad to have you here, Anagha.
Hi Manali, it is really I'm very excited for this live actually.
Yes, totally. So we have worked so much around it. So let's
Yes,
discuss with everyone like what diabetes is and how can we help manage it through functional nutrition, right?
yes.
So to begin with, can to give you like give your introduction. You're teaching biochemistry to the students at iThrive Academy. So we're going to get from you the biochemical perspective, right? Without going into much of the cycles, as I would
Yes.
say.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, how would you like to describe diabetes?
Giving a simple definition, I will just say diabetes is like it is a condition, it is a metabolic condition when you have high glucose levels in your blood. Very, very simple, basic definition. And this can be because your body is not producing enough amount of insulin, or that might be because your whatever body is producing insulin, your own cells are not responding to it. So it can be
Right.
either different things, and depending on that you have type 1 type 2 diabetes and all. So insulin also plays a very important role over here. It's a peptide hormone that is secreted by pancreas. So like the pancreas, they have these exocrine cells, sorry, endocrine cells, and these endocrines either the alpha and the beta cells. The alpha cells producing glucagon, and the beta cells produces insulin. And both this balance of the glucagon and insulin basically is important for the overall glucose metabolism in your body or glucose homeostasis in your body,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so as you rightly said, it is to do with metabolism, and which is why I think you, as the biochemistry instructor, would be the best suit to describe what actually happens in the metabolism and how it gives rise to diabetes. Can you list a few symptoms like what detects that yes, a person is diabetic?
so yes, so it can be like, of course, their blood test can be one. When you do a blood test, you can see that there is. You can check for C peptide levels in the body. So if they have like a higher C peptide level, that means. It is like your body is producing insulin, but your cells are not responding to it.
Right,
While
right.
while if there is also like if there are low C peptide level, that means your body is not producing enough amount of insulin.
Yes.
Then of course, then obesity can it is not like a symptom of it, but most of the diabetic people are also obese in nature.
Yes, so that is what
Then
we call as comorbid conditions when two or multiple conditions related with metabolism
yes,
occur, and that is also a part of metabolic syndrome. So
yeah.
yes, there are many reasons, many symptoms, and I think diabetes in the long run also gives rise to, like you might have heard about diabetic nephropathy, neuropathy, and retinopathy. So the constant level of hyperglycemia, that is high blood sugar in the blood, it disturbs the other organ systems also, right?
Yes.
And I think again polyuria, polydipsia, and like high amount of like thirst or high urination, and high, like people feel hungry quite often, right? So I think that is also like symptoms, some symptoms of diabetes. And we all know that there are many different types, right? So there is not one type of diabetes. So would you like to give us an idea like what all different types of diabetes are?
Yeah, before going in different types of diabetes, I'll just go upon through the various, metabolism, how your
Yeah.
insulin controls your glucose levels and all. So if I give like a basic picture, when you have like you had a meal, there'll be high amount of glucose in your blood because you have just taken a lot of carbs, proteins, and different macronutrients, right? So you have high glucose in your blood, and that time your insulin goes and binds to these receptors. Your pancreas will basically secrete this insulin They goes and bind to these receptors of your adipose tissues and all these other cells, and this will tell the body or the cells to uptake the excess amount of glucose which is present in your body, in the blood basically, and therefore then it is the conversion of the excess glucose into the glycogen, and then further it is used for the energy synthesis. So based on this, the insulin secretion, there are like three major type of diabetes we can
Right.
talk about, right? There is type 1 type of diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and we have gestational diabetes also. So in type 1, what happens is it is like an autoimmune condition wherein there is autoimmune death of the endocrine cells, the beta cells, which basically secrete the insulin, and which results in the insulin deficiency because there is beta cell death. Whereas in type 2 type of diabetes, what happens is that your beta cells, it is producing enough insulin, but due to this dysregulation of all your metabolic pathways like these carbs, lipids, and proteins, your body cells are not able to respond to this excess amount of insulin, which is the insulin which is produced, and therefore they are not able to uptake the glucose which is present. So it can be because of the insulin, of course. One of the reason can be insufficient insulin production or insulin
Yes.
secretion by the beta cells. Other one, of course, because the body cells don't respond to this insulin which is being produced. And there is also this insufficient insulin secretory response by the pancreatic cells also. The last one is the gestational diabetes, wherein it is shown during the pregnancy. When a woman is pregnant, she, of course, she gains weight and all. There are other factors which also affect. There are various hormonal changes which is going on
Right.
continuously in
Right.
our body.
Totally.
And that time, there might be a chance, or that there is high risk that the women can, she can go through gestational diabetes. So here, of course, it is not like she might have some, a pre-type 2 diabetes, those type of difference because they already have diabetes, but this type of diabetes are shown or they occur during the pregnancy,
Okay.
period, during
Hmm.
that. And yes, so
Yes. So is there because we're talking about gestational diabetes, I think it is also called as GDM. So
yeah,
what, as you said, that there could be that diabetes is already present and at times it gets developed during pregnancy, right?
yes.
So what is the right time to go for the test and how do we define that it is GDM and not a serious, as in not a permanent condition or not a long-standing condition instead of permanent, I'd say. So how do we determine that?
Yeah, so basically in GDM, what happens is if you like, of course, you go and check your blood glucose levels, and
Yes.
if you are already diabetic, you will have a high like hypoglycemia and high blood glucose levels, right? But during the pregnancy period, if you are not diabetic, and this GDM tends to appear during like after your 24th week of pregnancy. So you
Okay.
can go and test between 24th to 28th week of pregnancy. So if you have GDM, it will be you can get it after the 24 weeks of pregnancy. But if you're already diabetic, then even before you check, before like 24
Hmm.
weeks, you can check and you might have like diabetic conditions.
Okay.
Or
So it is like pre-existing diabetes.
yes,
Okay, that's great. Okay, so I think there are also some like we'll go to the root causes, of course, but when we talk about diabetes, I think there also comes the point of diabetes being genetic, right? That
yeah.
we ask people about their family history, like is there anyone diabetic in your family? So we'll go into that also, but I'd like to add it to the definition that at times it is a genetically caused condition, and I think it is also autoimmune in nature, right?
Yeah, it is autoimmune. Of course, genetic, genes play a crucial role in these, type 1 diabetes, even type 2 diabetes. But of course, like in case of type 1 diabetes, it is an autoimmune condition, and
Right,
mainly it is a cell-mediated type of immunity which plays a role over here. So it is that the T cell mediated immunity, it will tend to go and destroy your beta cells, so the pancreatic beta cells, right? It is like it is acting upon your own cells,
right, right.
even without differentiating them, that
Hmm.
it is not a foreign cell or something. It is just destroying their own cells, and because of that. which directly reflects upon your pancreas, that your pancreas are not able to produce insulin because your beta cells are dead. So yeah, of course, the mainly in autoimmunity it is a T cell mediated immunity which plays for all
All
of
right.
this.
Yes. So as you rightly said, autoimmune meaning it is attacking our own cells.
Yes.
Here, in case of diabetes, it is pancreas, right? So I think taking care of your immune system is also a part of preventing
Yeah.
diabetes. Yes. So
Yes.
not letting it get so exhausted that it is unable to differentiate between foreign and our own cells.
Own
So
cells.
yes, right, absolutely. So before understanding the root causes and before going on to the functional nutrition approach, let's discuss like how conventionally diabetes is addressed,
Yeah.
right? So anything that you can think of which is commonly done, like even before or without studying science or getting into this field, we see our
Yeah.
parents or our relatives like going to conventional practitioners and going with these interventions.
Yeah, so I think everyone will know that the conventional diabetes treatment mainly are giving if like insulin injections and all in case because your body is not producing the amount of insulin that they need.
Yes, in
So
cases of,
it's
I think
type
that should be in cases of type 1, right?
type 1, yes. So yes, insulin injections are there, and there are oral pills for various reasons to keep your blood glucose in control. In case of type 2, I also know that there is metformin which is given. Yes, and
Medicine,
yeah,
yes.
then they have this typical diabetic diet. They tell to
Right,
follow the
right.
patients and
And it's like a template diet, like
yes.
one diabetic diet for everyone who has type 2.
Everyone, yeah, same diet for everyone. It is. I think we should also go to the root cause and check why diet can also be different individually depending on
Yes,
their
yeah.
disabilities. Yes.
Right, right. So yes, here is where the bio-individuality comes into picture and why functional nutrition is necessary. So when I remember me talking about these diets, template made diets, even in cases of obesity. So not every person who has obesity or diabetes will have it for the same reason. So understanding the reason first, addressing it, and as a result, as a byproduct, the disease itself would get resolved and reverse.
Yeah.
So that should be our aim. And when you're talking about insulin, I also remembered, I think one of our clients had this, like, although insulin was being produced in, let's say, normal range or high range because of insulin resistance. So there was absolutely no need of giving insulin externally, but still the client was advised with taking insulin shots. So
Okay.
again, how misdiagnosis can be
Yes.
harmful, and we are then confusing our body because it's already has insulin, it's not responded, right? So we need to work towards making pancreas and other organs which are supporting the pancreas or our metabolism to help it process, right? Instead of adding it with any further load of insulin. So
Yes.
yes, I think that was about the conventional approach. So let's start with the functional nutrition approach by addressing one root cause at a time.
Yeah.
So which root cause would you like to start with?
So, in case of type 1 diabetes, of course, we have covered about the autoimmunity. It can be one of the root causes why there is no sufficient insulin production in your body, and because this autoimmunity tends to kill the endocrine cells of the pancreas. So, of course, then comes the pancreatic dysfunction in the picture also. So pancreatic dysfunction is also related to this. And then last, of course, the genetics. Genetics play a big role, a crucial role in type 1 diabetes specifically.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, so it is the HLA, the human leukocyte antigen area, which contains the majority of the genes which are, susceptible to, getting the type, majority of the genes which are kind of susceptible to type 1 DA. So, like the type 1 diabetes, like this. So, it is like the 40-50% genetic risk is present. If there is any polymorphic like mutation in this region, then of course you
Yes.
might get type 1 diabetes.
Yes. So that's about the type 1 diabetes, which is
Yes.
absolutely right. And how about like how are these reasons different, or are there any additional reasons for type 2 diabetes?
In case of type 2 diabetes, of course, there is the sedentary lifestyle. type 2 diabetes, it is said to be a lifestyle disease, and
Yes,
but it is also, there are some genetic factors which are also related to it. So it is like, one thing can be, if your parents have, like, if one of your parents have type diabetes, then it is like you have 40% chance of getting diabetes. Although you
right,
might not have the gene, but of course it might be somewhere that your parents have it. You might also get it earlier in your further life.
right.
You might not be detected in the early life though.
Yes, I like to add a point here. So, when I was studying nutrigenomics, right? So we had this in genetics that when diseases are observed in families or in generations, it is not necessarily always through genes, because
Yeah.
it can also be due to environmental factors, because in a locality, in a household, all the other eating patterns or lifestyle patterns, they are also in the similar manner, right? So even those as a result could give rise to your tendency of developing or preventing a disease. So
Yes.
yes, and you're talking about genes here. So again, there is a chance. You gave the number, right? So there is definitely genetic predisposition, or you have that tendency. But whether or not you develop that disease is again depends on your diet, your lifestyle,
Yes.
whether or
Okay.
not you turn those genes on and
Off. Yeah.
give rise to these genetic expressions.
Yes.
So yes, and I think when we study the genetics or the genetic panel, or we run the genetic test for each and every disease, including diabetes, there are multiple genes which play a role in the development of type 2 diabetes,
Yes.
especially.
Yes.
So it's not one gene that we look at; it's the panel, the whole panel, and the cumulative result of it dictates our tendency, again still a tendency to develop the disease, and then it depends on us, it's still in our hands whether or not to let that disease manifest.
That's why it is a lifestyle disease, right? The way what you eat, the way your day-to-day life activities are crucial, because it can affect and impact and tend to cause your genes to be turn into something.
I think, yeah. Please repeat, I think we lost you for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, sorry. So that's why it is called a lifestyle disease, because the way you eat, your diet, or the activities, the day-to-day activities you do also are very crucial, because they can, develop those genes which are silent, or the other factors which might turn into a diabetic conditions further in your later life. Yeah,
Right.
so I think along with genetics, there is also the hidden the inflammation. The inflammatory
Hmm.
factor also comes in type 2 diabetes, wherein, for example, if you're obese, then there is this increase in the mass of the adipose cells and all, right? And these
Right.
causes an increase in the oxidative pathways of your overall, the cell organelles which are present. It also causes mitochondrial dysfunction, and this gives rise to a lot of reactive oxygen species, and these reactive oxygen species may be a reason further to initiate and activate your NF kappa beta activities, and also these all immune reactions which are
All the
happening.
inflammatory pathways.
Yes, all inflammatory pathways which are happening, and that might further lead to a diabetic conditions. So yes, so inflammation is also very important. Therefore,
Yes, so when, yeah, please go ahead.
no, no, that's why I was saying, obesity is kind of related to your diabetes conditions because of this. Because there is this,
Right.
it puts stress on your adipose cells and the other organelles which are present in the cells,
Mhm.
which can further, activate all these inflammatory pathways.
Yes, and when you talk about inflammation, it is like you very well explained the mechanism, how it is happening internally or in the in molecular language inside the cell, how it all is functioning. But this is what is biology, right? But
Yeah.
what we can apply, if we talk about the application part of it, I think as a nutritionist, I would like to say and emphasize on the point of reducing or eliminating the inflammatory foods in our diet.
Foods.
So here is where the elimination diet comes in, and no matter how negative that word sounds, but elimination of negative things is, it's like a plus, right? We are
Yeah.
taking only the problem-causing factors out here, so we are not compromising on anything. We are not restricting our diet. So inflammatory foods, again, to start with, like dairy is there, gluten, or seed oils, vegetable oils, or processed foods, or anything that we have high in omega-6 fatty acids. So yes, all these are like instructions, everyday instructions for our body to create and promote inflammation. So elimination of this food, I think the heavy words that you use to talk about the inflammatory pathway, right? So that would simply prevent that from happening. So yes, that's a
Yes.
practical approach towards it. Yes, what other factor can we think
I
of?
think your gut metabolism can also be one of the factors, that is like, if I say that there are maybe various the free fatty acids if they are present. So
Right,
an increase in the free fatty acid will cause and activates the serine kinase cascade, which leads to the dysfunctioning of the receptors, which are required for the insulin, the insulin binding receptors. So if these receptors are dysfunctioning, the insulin is unable to bind to your cells, of course, and then there is a result of insulin resistance in the
right,
picture.
right,
So
right.
yes,
Yes, and as I teach the human microbiome module, I would like to add an aspect to this. So I remember you saying about endocrine activity, right?
yeah,
So when we
yeah,
talk about the hormones, so there are also enteroendocrine cells inside the gut. So the location is in the gut, although they are in the gut, but they are responsible for synthesizing hormones, which are responsible in maintaining insulin sensitivity, as you rightly said, or regulating our appetite. We already know that ghrelin and leptin are two hormones that dictate like how hungry we are or how satiated we are, right? So there are a couple of hormones which regulate or which are as a result of gut metabolism connection, they play a role. So there is one cholecystokinin, which is abbreviated as CCK. Then there is peptide YY and glucagon like peptide 1. So these three play a role in regulating our appetite. And then there are again there's one additional which is glucose dependent insulinotropic peptide along with the glucon like peptide 1. So these two help maintain the insulin sensitivity. So like how well these hormones are secreted depends on the gut health because they are secreted in the gut. So maintaining the gut health here plays a role.
yes, yes, sure. Of course, along with the gut health, there are like other reasons also, like hypothyroidism, and then there is a hypoimmune functions and all. So yeah, I think all of these makes up to the root causes of the type 2 diabetes.
Right. So these are all the factors that when we do the root cause analysis, or when we start with analyzing the blood reports. So that is the I think the foundation of functional
Yeah.
nutrition to identify what is the root cause. And here I would like to emphasize on the fact that the optimal ranges that the functional nutrition practitioners use. These are separate. These are very sensitive, and they are they are to promote like easy and early on detection because diabetes is like a long standing condition, and we as soon as we can detect it, it's better we can start acting on it before it starts creating a disease and disturbing the normal balance. So even like as the name suggests, functional nutrition, so the moment the pancreas in this case start losing their function or when they start becoming dysfunctional, that is the right point to start addressing it, taking care of our pancreas, whatever nutrient it needs, and how well we can take care of the other organs. As you said, there is hyperthyroid, so taking care of the thyroid gland. Or if you're talking about the gut dysbiosis, so ensuring that the gut is getting all the right nutrients and the bacterial microflora is not disturbed.
Yeah.
So yes, all of those root causes are important. Um, if you're talking about, I think, functional foods like as a therapeutical approach, then I would like to stress at few foods. Of course, we pay attention towards the carbohydrate intake or increasing the protein intake, making sure the protein is adequate and diet is not just rich in carbohydrates. So of course that focus is there, but there are some herbs, so there are some supplements which are again like natural food derived, so not of any chemical sort. So these are just supporting your pancreas. So these are helping us increase the insulin sensitivity, right? And this is just to support your pancreas so that the pancreas don't need to rely on any external medicine or insulin, right? So I think to name a few, there can be berberine. We all know and we are quite familiar, and it sounds very promising. So berberine is one thing, then gymnema herb is one thing, or fenugreek. Let's start with fenugreek. So this is the simple,
Yeah.
like spice or a herb which is there at every of our kitchens. So
Yes.
it's a very simple strategy that we can start if we know that yes, our insulin resistance is building. And I think that reminds me about the recent edition that we just covered. So we are coming up, like the iThrive is coming up with the Healer's Digest. So this is a magazine where we focus on one disease at a time and we share all our knowledge and different perspectives, and not just research but the case studies, recipes, podcasts, blogs, whatever we have learned about that one topic. So the second edition of it talks about diabetes, so we have covered
Diabetes. Yes.
many things in that, and there are different aspects to it, genetics of diabetes or functional foods, like I talked about fenugreek. So we come to know like how exactly it is functioning, how exactly at the molecular level it is helping us promote insulin sensitivity. So yes, I think we've covered pretty much everything. Do you want to say anything, add any concluding remark?
Yeah, I think in case of like type 2 diabetes, it is a lifestyle related disease, right? So I think taking care of your diet and then, checking your blood markers, etc., is very important. Talking about blood markers, I think we have already covered about C peptide, but then there's also HbA1c.
Yes.
So yes, I think it tells your average glucose levels up to like 2 to 3 months, right?
Yes, and so it
So
is more reliable than just looking at the your sugar levels or insulin levels.
yes, yes.
Yes,
So yeah,
and
I think
yes, please go ahead.
no, that's why I think it is very important, and we not only focus on this your fasting blood sugar or your
Mhm.
postprandial blood sugar, but also other markers also are very important as
Yes.
what we cover. And I think in IThrive we do cover a whole range of
Yes, there are
big panel.
more
Yes,
parameters that we look at. Totally. So, as we discussed, that diagnosing it right initially is more important. And as conventionally, it is believed that when you're diagnosed with diabetes, it is like done deal, and you are stuck with metformin for your life until
yes,
you start developing heart conditions or it starts affecting your other organs. So it is not the case, which is why detecting it early on is necessary, because at that stage it actually has that power of reversing. Like we can reverse it, and yes, it is totally like reversible with functional nutrition if we are able to detect it early on. And instead of finding a quick fix and just covering the symptom, just doing symptom management, it's better to get it corrected from the root cause. So yes,
yes.
that is what we would do in functional nutrition. And thank you, Anagha, for all your wisdom and your biochemical approach to diabetes. It was a pleasure being doing this live session with you.
Yeah, thank you also for having me. I also got to learn a lot, from a functional nutrition perspective. So yeah, thank you. I
Yes,
think
yes. Yeah, we can take up questions if there are any. So all of you, the audience, you can send in your questions and we can happily address. I think let's wait for a couple of minutes until they get the
yeah,
time to come up with questions. I think even in sports nutrition, when we say it play like it, the treatment approach or the diagnosis would change, and it needs special attention if people are diabetic, right?
yeah, yes.
Yeah,
Specifically, if when you are maintaining a particular diet, when you are a sportsman, they have a particular diet set. So yes, there should be a different approach.
right. And we need to look at the baseline, right? So, like sports, like athletes would have different requirements. and that like that won't be as similar to like normal individual who is leading let's say moderate lifestyle, not sedentary,
Yeah.
but the athlete would have different requirements. On top of that, you're adding another layer, which is diabetes. So that is bringing another dynamic to it, and that needs to be taken into consideration while planning the diet or
Yes.
addressing the healing modality.
Yes,
Yes,
their energy levels, their energy requirements also different as compared to a normal person. So
right,
yeah, that will also bring change in their metabolic pathways, and that will also be affected by the various hormones, like for example insulin.
right.
So yeah,
Yes. And I think also toxins and our exposure to toxins, like you said, it is autoimmune. So autoimmune can always be like rise from toxin exposure earlier in life. So I think
yes,
again that like limiting our exposure to the toxins, and I think there are like chelation therapies available to help your body detoxify, or even with foods we can help our body detoxify from those toxins. I think that could be also one approach.
yeah.
Yes. So Chandra here is asking, what is a C peptide test and how is it helpful?
Yeah, so as we have discussed earlier, that C-peptide is one of a marker which can tell you how much your body is producing insulin. So in case of type 1 diabetes, there will be low levels of C-peptide. So if there is low level of C-peptide, it indicates that your pancreas is producing a little of more insulin. Whereas in case of type 2 diabetes, there will be a high level of C-peptide. So even if your body is producing extra, like, your body is producing insulin, your body cells are not responding to it. So
Yes.
this can be like a
Yes.
differentiating the factor between type 1 and type 2 diabetes.
Which is so important because the treatment strategies for both are so different, and
Yes.
diagnosis is again the primary thing. And again, like c-peptide is an insulin type, which is
Yeah.
like different type of insulin again secreted by pancreas. I think that answers your question, Chandra. Do we have any more questions? Okay, so I think that was it for this live session. So thank you all for attending. And if you still have any questions, you can always put it up. The live session will be there. The video record will be posted, and we can get back to you with our answers. Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Anagha.
Thank you.
Bye.